To come from Mr. Mtajalo of Chama North to ask the Minister of Tourism whether the government is aware that elephants are terrorizing people and destroying crops in the following villages in Chama North Parliamentary Constituency. And these places are Mbangandwe, Mungulube, Chipeta, Zobele, and Mulumbu. And if so, what urgent measures have been taken to avert and safeguard human life? So that's the only question that's coming up under Standing Order number 76. We also expect Mr. Piri of Mkaika, that's question number 224, understanding order number 74. Mr. Piri of Mkaika, rather, will ask the Minister of Home Affairs why the construction of the National Registration Office in Katete District has stalled, what the project, when the project will resume, who the contractor for the project is, how much money was owed to the contractor as of March 2022, and what the cost of the project is. We also expect Mr. Chanda of Kanchibia to ask the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development when the construction of the following infrastructure in the Kanchibia district will commence. That's a civic center, a police station, a police office, high-cost houses, medium-cost houses, and low-cost houses. And the B part of the question, Mr. Chanda wants to find out what the cause of the delay in commencing the project is, and the cost of the project, and what the time frame for the completion of the project is. Mr. Chonde of Milenge is expected to ask the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security when the construction of Milenge police station in Milenge district will be completed, and what the cause of the delay in completing the project is. We also expect Mr. Ellen Banda of Chimwemwe to ask the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development whether the government has any plans to tar the following townships in Chimwemwe Parliamentary Constituency. That's Vanadium and Synchron in Tipi, and the rest will follow. Just now, we'll be now crossing over to the chamber. As you can see, the Speaker's procession making its way into the chamber, signifying the start of business today. Good morning.
Honorable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Yeah. We must speak up.
Descendants of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God's good hand. Let us, all her people, join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, green and we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. We beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I have an announcement to make. Honorable members, I've received communication to the effect that in the absence of our Honorable Vice President, who is not feeling well, the Honorable Minister of Defense, Honorable Ambrose L. Lufuma MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, Friday, 24th March 2023, until further notice. I thank you. We move to matters of urgent public importance. Okay. We make progress. There is an indication from the Honorable Member for Lundazi. What is your matter of urgent public importance?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The matter I wish to raise is directed to the Minister of Finance.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last year, Madam Speaker, the government took an activity where they involved the youths to participate in census. They did the work, but up to today, most of the youths in my constituency have not been paid the money. And other constituencies. Madam Speaker, why is the Minister of Finance holding on to the little resources for the youths up to this time? I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Member. That is an odd issue. According to the requirements for matters of urgent public importance, it must be an issue of recent occurrence. So this question, it looks very important. Can you please file in a question so that your matter can be attended to in the correct manner? The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to raise a matter of urgent public importance pursuant to Standing Order number 134, read together with 135C.
You may proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my matter of urgent public importance is directed at the acting leader of government business in the House. Madam Speaker, sometime this month, the nation will host what is called the Democracy Summit. 4 countries have been earmarked for this summit. Costa Rica, Netherlands, Ghana, South Korea, and our country. Madam Speaker, the hallmark of this summit, which is declared by the US President, Joe Biden, is the promotion of democracy and human rights. Most importantly on human rights, Madam Speaker, is the promotion of human rights for gay people, or should I say LGBTQ. Madam Speaker, when you check nations like Costa Rica is very liberal, and it's the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriages. The Netherlands, we even know, even here they flew flags for LGBTQ. Madam Speaker, I take cognizance of the fact that the government has pronounced itself very well on this issue on several occasions. However, Madam Speaker,
Honorable member, you are now debating.
I'm trying to build the agent, Madam Speaker.
Order. Is it possible, honorable member, because you have to be precise, can you summarize your matter of urgent public importance instead of debating it?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I stand guided as such. Madam Speaker, this is happening at a time when USAID and PEPFAR have also deployed a technical director at the State House in our country, Madam Speaker, for what is called in charge of key and key population and vulnerable, key and vulnerable population. Madam Speaker, is the acting leader of government business in the House in order to keep it quiet when our nation will be hosting such a summit whose sole purpose is to come and launch the LGBTQ activities in Africa using our nation? Madam Speaker, our people out there.
You are debating, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I was saying, I seek your indulgence on this very important matter, Madam Speaker. Why isn't government coming to the House to bring a bill to toughen laws on homosexuality, Madam Speaker? For how long will our people talk against this and the government only does rhetorics? Madam Speaker, we need action so that we protect the values and the principles of our country. Madam Speaker, I seek your very serious guidance. I thank you.
There is an indication for a point of order. The honorable member for Zambezi East. What is your point of order? Order, honorable members. There is an indication for a point of order. Let's listen to the point of order. The honorable member for Zambezi East, you may proceed with your point of order.
Madam Speaker, I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to raise this very serious point of order pursuant to Article 65 of our standing orders. Madam Speaker, the honorable member for Mpika, who has just concluded moving a matter of urgent public importance. The honorable member stood to raise a matter of urgent public importance. And this House is well guided. And Madam Speaker, you guided the House accordingly on what is relevant in terms of raising a matter of public importance. Is the honorable member in order to use this very important avenue which we have provided for in our standing orders to simply politic and try to move innuendos and insinuations, misleading the whole nation as if the government is willing to entertain what is trying to propagate in LGBTQ. Is he in order to simply seek an avenue which is so important to raise issues that affect our people, to propagate issues that are non-existent? For 10 years, they did nothing about it. Is he in order to come in this fashion? Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling.
Honorable members, I think I have guided. There was even an announcement that was made by the second deputy speaker on how to raise, let me just say, rules or procedure on how to raise matters of urgent public importance. Because if I give my stand on what he has said, it will become my ruling. So maybe it was also important for you to wait until you hear my ruling.
Yeah.
But a guide to the other members, please, this is not a platform to debate or politicking about matters. You are supposed to be very precise. Summarize your matter of urgent public importance. You are not supposed to debate it. That is a requirement. It's a rule that you have to follow. So let us stick to that rule. We are not interested to hear the debate. We are just interested to hear the matter as it is, not going round in circles. Let us try to be precise. And the issue is supposed to be holding one matter, not several matters brought together. It's just supposed to be one matter that is brought up. So like in this case, Honorable Member, for now I'm going into the ruling. Of course, the Honorable Member was out of order because he debated the matter. He was supposed to state the matter. My ruling to that Honorable Member from Pika, you have already debated this matter. It's holding two issues as far as I heard. Holding this summit, I thought the issue was on holding this summit, but now you went on to say the government should bring a bill to the House. So it's really mixed up. Moreover, this is not a matter that will bring catastrophe at the end of it all. We are looking at matters that are really urgent. If the government does not attend to such matters, then there will be catastrophe or there will be disaster that will follow. So this matter is not admissible. The Honorable Member for Kawambwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the country woke up to a screaming headline attributed to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, where he said that they are jokers. Madam Speaker, jokers are people who are not serious. And anybody who takes them serious will get disappointed. Madam Speaker, this particular issue is or was directed at Her Honor the Vice, was supposed to be directed at Her Honor the Vice President. If the Zambians must now believe that yes, indeed, the UPND government are jokers who must never be taken seriously. That is why 750 million worth of sewage light has gone missing at a police station. That is why an issue that is not addressed to His Excellency the President is answering it instead of those who were addressed in this particular matter. Madam Speaker, is the government in order to continue telling the Zambians that they are not serious and that the Zambians must not take our colleagues and the president seriously because they are jokers. I need your seat because Zambians are worried that they voted for jokers. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. Honorable members, I think now we've gone astray. We are moving away from matters of urgent public importance. We are abusing this platform. Like this matter which you have brought, Honorable Member for Kawambwa, it has got so many issues. It has got so many issues, and it's very difficult to even understand what you are talking about. Moreover, this is not an urgent matter. What will happen? What is the catastrophe there? What is the disaster that will occur? Are people going to die because of this? So, Honorable Member, my guide is we are going to skip this session because we have brought in a lot of matters which are not related to urgent matters. The leader of opposition, is that a point of order or a matter of public importance?
It's a matter of urgent public importance.
Order, honorable members, I had forgotten there was an indication for a point of order from the Deputy Chief Whip. What is your point of order before the leader of opposition comes in?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in all fairness, I think there is a deliberate move by the members on the opposite side who are in opposition to try and use this time for politicking. According to Standing Order 65, Madam Speaker, it is clear and you have guided.
Order, the honorable member for Chinsali, please.
So I don't think it is right, Madam Speaker, that we proceed in this fashion. I need your serious intervention because the issues they are raising are simply political, Madam Speaker. Simply political, and we need to do serious business in this House. So, Madam Speaker, for your discretion, maybe we move on to the next item on the standing order, because this is not a place to politic, but to do serious business. I need your serious ruling, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Order. Order, honorable members. I've already guided. I mentioned to say that now we've started to abuse this platform. It's an opportunity for honorable members of parliament to bring matters of urgent public importance so that the executive can attend to them. But now we have started just bringing issues that are not important. I'm going to read this announcement that was made because it seems we are not moving in the right direction and we are wasting people's time. We know deep down that this is not a matter of urgent public importance, but we stand up and continue with it. Honorable members, it reads, the essence of a matter of urgent public importance is to bring to the attention of the House and the executive a widespread event in the country. The event should not be peculiar to only a small section of the country. The subject matter should not only be clothed with a national character but also capable of being debated. Its importance should be such that if the executive does not intervene immediately, a catastrophe would befall the nation. For example, floods, droughts, armyworms, invasion of locusts are some of the events or incidences contemplated by Standing Order 134 as matters of urgent public importance because they usually affect a large section of society. An outbreak of a disease in a constituency, for example, though urgent and important, cannot be raised as matter of urgent public importance because it is not debatable and also not widespread. The appropriate tool to employ under such circumstances is a question of urgent nature under Standing Order number 76. I'm sure it's very clear. But why are we now meandering or going astray? Very, very clear what we are supposed to do. I'm going to allow only the last two, just to see if we have understood.
Point of order. Point of order.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, you've got a point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to raise a point of order on the Honorable Chilangwa. Madam Speaker, the point of order I'm raising is anchored on Standing Order number 65, 1B. Madam Speaker, Honorable Chilangwa, in his purported matter of urgent nature, did indicate that he indicated that Sujalite in Kabwe is missing, and he attempted to produce a newspaper to show that Sujalite in Kabwe is missing. Madam Speaker, is it in order to indicate that the Sujalite, which is a subject of court process in Kabwe, is missing, yet that Sujalite in Kabwe is under lock and key, and the Provincial Joint Security Committee secured it yesterday in public domain.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members on my left.
Yes. Madam Speaker, the point I'm making is that the Sujalite was transferred from a truck to a secure container in Kabwe, and is available and verifiable. Is in order
Yesterday.
under a stupor to start making insinuations that Sujalite is missing in Kabwe, contrary to the provisions of Standing Order 65-2.
Order, honorable members. I'll reserve my ruling so that I investigate the matter and come to this house to render a ruling at a later date. Like I mentioned, I'll allow two, the leader of opposition and the honorable member from Bawala, then we make progress. The leader of opposition, what is your urgent matter?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The matter that I raise requires immediate attention of the House and government. Madam Speaker, I was called for a meeting by your members on the left. 50 members of parliament called me for a meeting that they are beginning to prepare for a protest against the Summit on Democracy, which Summit on Democracy they suspect is a veiled plan by the Americans to promote LGBTQ rights and, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker,
Order, honorable members, order. Order. Order, order, honorable member for Bwengwa. Order, the honorable member for Bwengwa. The honorable member for Bengwa, we are not supposed to debate while seated, and you are the deputy whip. Please, can we have order?
Madam Speaker, I want to be very clear that 50 members of parliament are preparing their constituencies to demonstrate against what they believe is the promotion of LGBT rights through
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Summit
Point of
on
order.
democracy.
Point of order.
Madam Speaker.
Order, Leader of Opposition.
Point of order, Madam
Order.
Speaker.
That issue was already brought out by another member, and I ruled to say that please can you find another avenue to raise that matter, because you are repeating the same matter.
This matter, Madam Speaker, is very important. And I feel very strongly
Madam
about
Speaker,
it.
point of order.
No. I feel
Point
very
of
strongly
order.
about it. Are we going to
Point
wait for
of
50
order.
members to demonstrate?
Point of
Is that
order.
what we want?
Point
Are we
of
going
order,
to wait
Madam
for
Speaker.
50 members to demonstrate?
Point of order.
No. It's not.
Point of order.
Order, honorable members. We have become unruly. Let us make progress. Question for oral answer, understanding order number 76. The honorable member for Chama North. Order, honorable member for Chirubi. Order, honorable member for Chirubi. Order, honorable members. The honorable member for Chirubi. The honorable member for Chirubi is arguing with which MP on the right? Order, honorable members. The honorable members for Wengwa and the honorable member for Chirubi, please leave the house. We make progress. Question for oral answer, understanding order number 76. The honorable member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 223.
The honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The honorable member for Chairman North has asked the Minister of Tourism whether government is aware that elephants are terrorizing people and destroying crops in the following villages in Chairman North Parliamentary Constituency. And these are Bangandwe, Mungulube, Chipeta, Zobole, and Mulumbu. Madam Speaker, I'll attempt to answer the questions as follows. Government is aware that elephants and other animals, which include hippos, buffaloes, and crocodiles, are terrorizing people and destroying crops in the areas mentioned in Chama North Parliamentary Constituency. The Department of National Parks and Wildlife received reports of elephants terrorizing people between 23rd February and 4th March 2023 in the above areas and immediately deployed officers to calm the situation. Further, Madam Speaker, on 17th March 2023, another report came from the same areas and officers were deployed immediately for the same date as they blasted and scared off elephants in the fields. The second question, Madam Speaker, if so, what urgent measures are being taken to avert hunger and safeguard human life? Madam Speaker, Chama North constituency, like the rest of the district, is situated in the game management area, and as such, it is inevitable that interaction between humans and animals, especially in the outskirts of the districts, is rampant. Continued encroachment, Madam Speaker, in animal habitat by communities for various reasons such as worsen the situation, especially in areas near the Luangwa River and Kampemba stream, where both people and wildlife share water resources, which is quite unfortunate. This interaction between the animals and humans usually results in attacks on the people and the destruction of crop fields and food storage bins, among others. Madam Speaker, the urgent immediate measure that has been taken to avert hunger and safeguard human life in these areas was the deployment of officers on the ground to calm the situation by scaring off these animals. Further, Madam Speaker, the ministry through the Department of Parks, National Parks and Wildlife has engaged its partner, Community Markets for Conservation, popularly known as COMACO, to sensitize members of the community on the creation of a community land bridge which equips communities with knowledge on how to interact with wildlife without any conflict whatsoever. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Kawambwa. No question?
Madam Speaker, I was trying to rise on a point of order pursuant to 65B, that the information we provide on the floor of this House must be factual. In his submission, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs referred to me that when I rose on my issue, I rose in my stupor, meaning that I'm drunk. Is he able to prove that?
Order, honorable members,
What kind
on
of
my
nonsense
right.
is this?
Order, honorable members, on my right.
Huh? Madam, I can't accept this.
Order, honorable members.
I can't accept this.
The honorable member for Kawambwa,
Yeah.
you may continue with your point of order.
Is Honorable Jack Mwimbu in order to refer to me in that fashion?
Honorable members, I think we are becoming, I don't know whether we've forgotten that we are in Parliament, in the August House, where people who've sent us are observing what is happening. There is decorum. We are supposed to observe decorum in this House. Let's avoid debating while seated. That point of order was actually addressed to me so that I make a ruling. But there are so many people now who are trying to debate or to join in the point of order. Let us restrain from doing that. The honorable member for Kawambwa, that was actually a point of order that was being raised. And our rules are that we cannot raise a point of order on another point of order. Kindly find a better way. You can write a complaint to the office of the Speaker, because we cannot admit a point of order on another point of order. Thank you. The honorable member for Mbabala.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Mbabala an opportunity to raise a follow-up question. First of all, may I begin by congratulating the Chiporoporo and the Honorable Elbs Nkandu. Under the new dawn, Zambia is winning now. So we are back in the Champions League. Madam Speaker, I wish to ask the Honorable Minister if there is a program to train our communities to coexist with the animals, given that we need the value from the animals and we need to live with them. And the fact that some of us are settled in their footpaths, wherever, or corridors where they used to pass many years ago. And this is part of the conflict that is happening. is there a program from the ministry to try and create coexistence with these animals that right now, even around Choma district, we have about 31 elephants that are even grazing in some of the fields and the like. My question is very clear. LGBT team, keep quiet.
Honorable members, just a guide. Let's try to avoid words that are provoking. Let's just be as normal as possible. This is a very important question. And it's even saying some people have died in some other parts of the country. The people are listening to hear what the executive are thinking about it. Let's not politicize everything. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, you can respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Member of Parliament from Mawala, for that important question. Yes, there is indeed programs that we have instituted under the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, which are looking at ways on how we are going to sensitize communities living in the game management areas to coexist with wildlife. I'll use an example of Chama North, Madam Speaker. We have a partner under the name of Frankfurt Zoological Society, which has been contracted, or rather gotten on board to work with the Department of National Parks and Wildlife to see how best they could work with communities. Not only is it on coexisting with these animals, but also to find other opportunities that exist within those particular areas that they live in. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Itezhi.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Itezhi an opportunity to ask a follow-up question with regard to the case of Chama. Madam Speaker, the animal-human conflict issues are everywhere. And at the moment, not only in Chama, in Itezhi, I've lost about 20 hectares of maize fields from elephants. I know one of the contributing factors is the smaller number of wildlife officers, and the government is yet to recruit. I just want to find out from the minister where we are in terms of progress in the recruitment of wildlife officers. That I know that once they come on board, they'll help to mitigate these challenges that we are going through. At the moment, I'm aware that scouts are going in the national parks, which is not supposed to be the case because of inadequate number of wildlife officers. I want to understand where are we, Minister, with regard to the recruitment process of wildlife officers that are going to safeguard the people who are in the GMOs. Thank you so much.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that question, Honorable Member for Itezhi, for that question. Yes, I do agree with you that the number of wildlife police officers in our 20 national parks is not sufficient enough to deal with the increased population of animal habitat. And to answer your question, Madam Speaker, we will be announcing the recruitment, or is it the final list of those recruited, as soon as the Civil Service Commission concludes with the process. We should be talking about early next month or so. Madam Speaker, I'll take advantage of this question to also mention that your members in here, Madam Speaker, are yet to be inducted as honorary wildlife police officers, and we'll make sure that before this House rises, Madam Speaker, your members will be sufficiently trained to be able to assist the Department of National Parks and Wildlife to avert some of these issues that are pertaining to human-wildlife conflict. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that response. I think I want to make it abundantly very clear that before Chama was conferred with a district status, it was part of Rundazi, and It was classified as a game management area through the Wildlife Act of 1947. But, Minister, the situation has changed. It is a district now. It's no longer part of Lundazi. Minister, we have been talking about man-animal conflict for a long time now, and our people feel that the government is not helping them. During the colonial government, there was a systematic way of handling man-animal conflict. Why don't you allow each village the way it was during the colonial days, where they were empowered, there was a hunter in every village, so that when becomes a threat to human life or destroy crops, they used to scare or kill those animals. And that way, it was able to control man-animal conflict. Why don't we do that? Because currently, people don't even have guns in the villages. That's why it's becoming very difficult to deal with this particular issue. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that question, Honorable Member for Chama North. I do agree with you that the population of animals in the various areas has increased, and at the same time, the population, the human population in those particular areas has also increased, which is putting a lot of strain on the very little land that we have at the moment. And Madam Speaker, at the risk of sounding mischievous, you will also realize that a number of people in the last couple of years have secured pieces of land in those particular areas and fenced them off, fencing off those areas which ordinarily are corridors for those particular animals. So we do not want to start mentioning certain issues that have been happening in the past, lest I be accused of politicking, but I think it's something that people need to understand, that those animals used to roam freely in those game management areas. And then obviously we set up districts, and when districts were set up, some individuals, I'll call them unscrupulous individuals, started getting titles for those pieces of land and unfortunately fencing them. So yes, we have that pressure, but we are looking at ways and means on how we are going to lessen the interaction of wildlife and humans, which obviously cause fatalities. And as such, Madam Speaker, we will be engaging your members here, honorable members of parliament, and that's why my minister has deliberately gotten all you members of parliament to help us in this effort to curb human-wildlife conflict. Let's go back to our constituencies. Let's tell the people to say those animals that we have in our protected areas are our paymasters, and we should be able to protect them rather than having to kill them at will. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think this issue, Minister, it has become now as a national issue, and a good number of districts, even those districts where there were no animals, I think recently we know some of the areas in Southern Province, people were killed because of this elephant. People, those who didn't know about animals, we were laughing at us like a soccer. People have been killed. And Minister, you agree with me. Minister, Madam Speaker, permit me to say this. Minister, I was born in the village. I grew up in the village. My village now has been taken over by animals, and that is serious. We had to move 30 kilometers from the village in the valley to Plateau. Again, at 30 kilometers from there, the elephants have followed us. This is what is happening now. The number of population of elephants has overgrown. Madam Speaker, my question to the minister is, Minister, looking at the last question, if government has got any measures to avert anger in these areas. My question to you, Minister, do you have any plans to see to it that those villages who are affected, government, there have never been a government, Madam Speaker, who has supplied fertilizer in the valley areas of this country? And I can challenge anyone here. Madam Minister, do you have any plans to start helping out the villages where animals are encroaching? Now it's animals encroaching in human lands, not the other way around. Madam Speaker, is the minister having any plans to start compensating the people who are being affected by animals? Because these are the areas where people grow food today, tomorrow the entire field is destroyed by animals. Minister, do you have any plans to avert hunger in these areas? Thank you.
The Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much for that question, our honorable member for Nyimba. Indeed, our government is a listening government. We would not let our people out in the cold purely because we'll be seen to be protecting animals at the expense of humans. And in terms of plans on how we are going to avert hunger, we have mentioned in my statement as I was answering the question, saying that there are mechanisms that have been put in place with our cooperating partners, our CMPs, and indeed the Department of National Parks and Wildlife. But more so, to just bring to your attention that currently the government of the Republic of Zambia has no legislation on compensating victims of human-wildlife conflict. However, we are in the process of having to sit down with the technocrats and also do a survey within the region to ascertain exactly how we work around compensating victims of human-wildlife conflict, especially in our range states, which is called the Kaza region. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for the opportunity. My question to the Minister was going to be on the compensation of victims. I'm glad that he has referred to it. But maybe my question would then be, Honorable Minister, would be that, like the people of Chama, we continue to lose lives when wildlife moves from game management areas and they get into the fields, and we've registered loss of life, damage to property, etc. And the need to look at the law, the Wildlife Act, which protects animal life but does not protect human life, is urgent. Would there be a time frame, Honorable Minister, to this particular process of relooking at this piece of legislation to ensure that we bring compensation to the victims of human-animal conflict? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much for that follow-up question from a Member of Parliament for Kanchivia. In terms of a time frame, Madam Speaker, I will not give it a time frame per se. We all understand how the cycle of Parliament is, but I would probably just like to make a clarion call to honorable members of Parliament in here, suggesting that once that legislation, that piece of legislation comes to this House, it should be given the priority that it deserves. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister. Minister, it is not disputable that the number of wildlife officers has gone down tremendously. However, the challenge we're having, Minister, is that when there's a report of a person has been killed, animals are eating people's crops, usually the officers, they don't respond expeditiously. But when they hear that an animal has been killed, they respond at the speed of lightning. So that, I think, has been causing problems. Honorable Minister, what measures is the government putting in place? Because at the moment, you find that there are 10 wildlife officers at the Boma, instead of them being in the bush there. So that way, I think it's very, very difficult to manage man-animal conflict, because people are arrested in their homes. They do patrols, but they don't arrest poachers, but people are arrested in their homes. So what measures is the government putting in place that these officers must be going there and respond expeditiously when there are these challenges our people are facing? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the other follow-up question from Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama North. I'm happy that the Member of Parliament appreciates the fact that my Department of National Parks and Wildlife is ailing in terms of resources as well as manpower.
And the issue of having 10 people at the boma as opposed to being in the field is some administrative issue that we may need to look into. And we'll definitely engage the various area wardens around our national parks to ensure that certain areas are manned. Now, Madam Speaker, I must make mention also that managing 20 national parks in Zambia is no small business. We have reached out to a number of our collaborative management partners to see how best we could manage this particular resource that we have. And as such, we have piloted with Liua, we have piloted with Kafue National Park, and indeed the Bangoli wetlands. So based on the results that we're going to get from there, we should be able to replicate to the remainder of the 17 national parks, including Sotunya, which is in my constituency, so that these issues of conservation, these issues of law enforcement can be expedited, as well as Chama North. So we will be talking to our partner who's looking after that area in Chama, Frankfurt Zoological, to ensure that some of the issues, that is Chama North and Chama South, to ensure that these issues of manpower is abated in the shortest possible time. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Magoye.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much for the opportunity given. Honorable Minister, 2 weeks ago in Magoye, there was a killing by wildlife officers at a certain white man's farm. And I'm told that there was a huge riot there. I want you to tell me if the one who killed that person, the wildlife officer, has been arrested. Thank you.
Okay. Though this one has shifted to another area, we are looking at Chama North. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, if you've got an answer.
Madam Speaker, I'm not aware of that incident. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Okay. The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I only hope what the Minister has just announced there, that he will be concluding an agreement with the cooperating partners. Maybe that will be the solution. Because clearly, just a day before yesterday, Madam Speaker, we are burying someone in my constituency, Chief Tembwe in particular, who was attacked around 16 hours in his field by an elephant. He was in the field, then the elephant came to eat maize in his field. He couldn't run faster than the elephant, and he was killed. We were burying a day before yesterday, and the minister is aware. In many parts of my constituency, Madam Speaker, people have no food. Relief food has to be taken now. Unfortunately, it can't even reach them because the areas are flooded because of the wild animals. Now, Honorable Speaker, how soon, because clearly we're having these challenges because of lack of manpower to try and protect our people, how soon do you think you will conclude this agreement with Frankfurt Zoological Society? Because they are the ones who have actually brought this problem through their enforcement. Now we have more elephants, more animals. How soon do you think we will be able to conclude so that they also invest resources in protecting people's crops and lives? I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama South. We will conclude that agreement within the second quarter of 2023. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Petauke.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, although it's a point of order, Madam Speaker.
No, we are looking at supplementary questions. Deliberately, I'm not taking any points of order because we have to make progress. We wasted a lot of time on points of order. They will come later. Let's just conclude this question.
The honorable member for Pemba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If you measure it, then you can control. Honorable Minister, do you have any plans to come to the House and update the nation how many elephants, how many buffaloes we have in this nation, so that if we have too many, probably you can start thinking of cropping them? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question for Honorable Member of Parliament for Pemba. Yes, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife continuously does an elephant count, a game count, to ascertain the number of habitat that we have in the various national parks that we have. And if indeed the House would want to have a look at the numbers of habitat that we have across the country, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, through my ministry, should be able to avail that information. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'll take the last two. The Honorable Member from Sanzala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for those answers. Mine is on the human conflict in Chama North. Madam Speaker, we as human beings, we are being told or encouraged to live in harmony with the animals. But even us as human beings, we are failing to live in harmony with one another. How is it possible that, Minister, these animals, they will coexist with the human being? Because even here, Madam Speaker, we are failing to coexist. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Though we are not supposed to debate ourselves, I don't know, Honorable Minister, if you've got an answer or a comment.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's very interesting, a very interesting analogy that Honorable Member of Parliament for Musanzala has used. And I think it starts with us, indeed. If us as humans can live in harmony, then I can guarantee you that us being in the wild there, especially Chama North and Chama South, the conflict between humans and wildlife will not exist. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Nalolo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, the issue of animals, human-animal conflict, is a big issue, and my constituency is no exception. But because it's a national issue, Honorable Minister, under your ministry cancelled hunting concessions. And there's a court ruling to that effect that you did that without following the law. When are these hunting concessions or this issue being resolved? Because we can't carry on talking about this when we know that the population of animals is growing because of this cancellation. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. And thank you very much for the follow-up question from Honorable Member of Parliament for Nalolo. Madam Speaker, I just want to put it on record that the increased population is not due to the fact that hunting has not happened in the last 1 year. The increased population of animals is due to the fact that the UPND government has brought in prudent measures of managing resources, the wild flora and fauna and animals in the various national parks that we have. We have seen a decrease in poaching, which was rampant in the last couple of years. We have seen law enforcement, we have seen conservation efforts being implemented by this new Dawn government this time around. Now, Honorable Member of Parliament for Nalolo suggests also that the court case, there's a ruling. I must make mention, Madam Speaker, that the government of the Republic of Zambia is still going to court on the 4th of April and also on the 6th of May to ascertain the same judgment that Honorable Member of Parliament for Nalolo has brought up. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next question. The Honorable Member for Mukaika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 224.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mukaika, Honorable Peter Piri, asked the following questions. A, why the construction of the National Registration Office in Katete District has stalled? B, when the project will resume? C, who the contractor for the project is? D, how much money was owed to the contractor as of March 2022? And E, what the total cost of the project is. Madam Speaker, in responding to the questions raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mukaika, Honorable Peter Piri, I wish to inform the House as follows. A, the construction of the National Registration Office in Katete District stalled because government delayed in honoring outstanding payment certificates for works completed. The contract was terminated by mutual consent. B, the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security, in collaboration with the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, have since evaluated the project to establish the scope of the remaining works. The project will resume as soon as the materials are procured to complete the remaining works during the 2023 budget allocations, 2022 budget allocations using personnel from the two ministries. C, the contractor was Merchant General Dealers. The contractor was paid all arrears as of March 2022. Government does not owe the contractor any money. And C and E, the contract sum for the project was 554,730 kwacha. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Mukaika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and Minister, thank you so much for your response. I didn't get you clearly, Minister, when you said you use the monies for 2022 budget. When are we seeing works now? Thank you so much.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are going to use force account to ensure that this particular project is completed. So I cannot, tell the exact time and when the money is released. We always await when the releases are made to the Ministry of Infrastructure and to our ministry. But we are committed to ensure that this particular project is completed.
The Honorable Member from Sanzala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that answer. My follow-up question is, are you going to maintain the same contractor, or you are going to look for another contractor to do the finishing up of the works? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Madam Speaker, I did indicate that the contract was terminated by way of mutual consent. We will look at other ways of ensuring that this project is completed.
The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, kindly clarify. I heard you saying in your statement that the contract was cancelled and that you are going to procure materials when funds are available. Could you kindly state, Honorable Minister, whether this contract is going to be labor-based or it will be an internal arrangement where no contractor will be engaged? I thank you, Madam.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Madam Speaker, we will use our own personnel to ensure that this particular contract is completed.
The Honorable Member for Milanzi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, when will the works be completed?
The the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Madam Speaker, I did mention that I will only be able to recommence the works once the funds are made available by the Ministry of Finance to enable us to do the works. We will use our own members of staff, as he's aware, the honorable member is aware, that even in Katete we are using our own officials in the Zambia Correctional Service to construct the facilities in Katete. In a similar manner, that's what we are going to do.
Next question, the Honorable Member for Kanchivia. The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member of Parliament for Kanchivia asked the Minister of Infrastructure and Urban Development the following questions. When the construction of the following infrastructure in Kanchivia district will commence? These are Civic Center, Police Station, Police Posts, High Coast Houses, Medium Coast Houses, and Low Coast Houses. And what the cause of the delay in commencing of the project is, what the cost of the project is, and what the time frame for the completion of the project, completion of each project. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. The construction of the underlisted infrastructure in Kachibia district will only commence once phase 1 of the project is completed. And the phase 1 is as aforementioned. Question B, the delay in commencing of the project is due to the lag in the completion of phase 1 projects because of financial constraints. Question C, Madam Speaker, the cost of each project will only be determined once the procurement of contractors is concluded. And the last question, Madam Speaker, is that the time frame for the completion of each project will only be determined once procurement of the contractors is done. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Supplementary questions, the Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Madam Speaker, I thank you so much. And Honorable Minister, thank you for the way you pronounce Kanchivia. Madam Speaker, on a very serious note, the Minister refers to phase 1 and are waiting for phase 1 which are stagnated. What is true on the ground is that there's no phase 1, Madam Speaker. The only phase 1 there is because we took initiative as Kanchivia constituency to start the construction of a civic center using the CDF funds. But otherwise, from the point of view of central government and the phase 1, it's a bit of a challenge to reconcile. And the more reason why we're saying that we took initiative from the CDF point of view to start with the civic center, because before then, the council was operating from church offices. And there's no police presence in Kanchivia as we speak. It's a matter that I've also raised with the Minister of Home Affairs, that there's no district police station in Kanchivia, and we're using CDF funds to try and do that. But, so I don't know what constitutes the phase 1 that the Minister made reference to. Maybe that would be my first question. It will help us, it will help me to come up with a follow-up question. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member may wish to note that the phase 1 that we're talking about in this particular project was as a result of the creation of the 33 districts, the newly created district. And as such, the creation of all these infrastructure within the various districts was done in a phased-out approach, and that is the phase 1 that needs to happen in all the 33 districts. We still had a lag in other districts which are already in existence. I'll probably give an example of Sioma, without having to abuse the constituency itself, where the Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development is looking at ways on how they could conclude those particular districts which were created well before the 33 districts that we have. Madam Speaker, I must make mention also that the process
in terms of the bid that was secured, was a little bit higher than what the funds allocated for that particular phase one were. And that's the reason why, in our response, we talked about the cost of each project will only be determined once the procurement of the contractor is concluded, and the time frame is based on when the contractor has been, the procurement of the contractor has been done. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the response will place on record that it doesn't inspire the people of Kanchivia, in the sense that this is a new district, and a district that has existed from 2017. We were gratified, and not to digress, when the Minister for Health mentioned that they would roll out, or they would start rolling out district hospitals starting next year. Would expect some time frame for newly created districts from government in terms of infrastructure. And this is so because equity demands that we know how to prioritize what we've been given for the CDF and what we expect as a central government's intervention. So the response in placing it on record, Madam Speaker, does not inspire us as the people of Kanchivia. There's no police presence as we speak. And people are committing crimes because they know there is no police presence to follow them through. And we're taking initiative as a CDF, but we need to do juvenile facilities, etc., for the police to really move in. So the urgency of the matter, Madam Speaker, is that we need a more concerted and constructive response on this particular matter from the ministry. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, any comment?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, Madam Speaker, our government is a government that looks at equity in our development efforts. And to just give assurance to the people of Kanchivia, this phase one will commence as soon as funds are readily available. We will engage the Honorable Member of Parliament here. You can come to my office. We can discuss this over a cup of coffee. But just to reassure you that we are not going to leave the people of Kanchivia behind in terms of development. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kamtinsa.
Madam Speaker, I'm very concerned with the response by the Minister who's acting. And I'll explain why, Madam Speaker. When a project is supposed to be implemented, the first phase is to identify the need. So the need here is to have a civic center, to have a police post, to have houses. That is phase one. The second phase, Madam Speaker, is to come up with designs. And based on those designs, Madam Speaker, people that we call quantity surveyors will come up with estimates. They'll be able to calculate how much money is needed for certain projects to be implemented. The response from the acting minister is that they don't know the cost of doing a civic center. They don't know the cost of doing a police post. They don't know the cost of doing houses because the bidding process hasn't been concluded. Madam Speaker, my question to the acting minister. Minister, are you telling us that there are no designs? Are you telling us that there are no engineering estimates that can guide how much is needed for these projects to be undertaken? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that follow-up question. Just to put it on record, I did make mention in my earlier response that the procurement process is in the process, as well as mentioning that once the contractor has been identified, we should be able to start working on the particular project. So essentially, the designs are in existence and they're there. I must make mention, Madam Speaker, that government, due to financial constraints, is targeting at projects within the 36 districts, of which are 80% completed. And those were the funds where they're going to go. And that's why I abused a district such as Sioma. And also, probably to just give comfort to Honorable
Member of Parliament for Kamfisa, the estimated time frame for these particular projects that we're talking about is between 12 to 24 months. So within that time period, we should be able to see movement with regards to infrastructure development. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chifubu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I'm sure the challenge for the infrastructure development we are discussing here in Kanchivia are quite historical. They have the history where they are coming from. Considering that the people of Kanchivia, where we are coming from, they were just pronounced a district without any plans. So, what are you doing as a substantive government to expedite the process of putting up the infrastructure for the people of Kanchivia as a caring government? Thank you.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Like you may have heard, these districts were pronounced in 2017, many years before the UPND formed government. And obviously, when we talk about projects running between 12 and 24 months, we would have expected that this phase one would have been done by our predecessors. But we're not going to dwell on that for now, Madam Speaker. One thing I would make mention is that we are indeed looking at how best we could take development to those areas which were claimed to have been developed at the time we were in opposition. And also to just make mention, Madam Speaker, that some of the plans and the designs which have already been approved in the various districts that we have across the country are there. What we're just requesting for, or waiting for rather, Madam Speaker, is just the funds to be made available. And I did make mention that those funds which are being made available will be prioritized to projects which are 80% and over. We don't want to be seeing white elephants where we are at 80% and then we start a greenfield project which will find itself not being completed in the shortest possible time. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The last one, the Honorable Member for Mukushi North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, it's actually interesting to hear that money will be found and at an appropriate time, these works will commence. My question therefore, Honorable Minister, through you, Madam Speaker, is that what assurance are you giving to the people of Kanchivia, looking at how these other works in various districts, the 33 you have talked about, how they have stored. But what assurance are you giving now to the people of Kanchivia that central government will find money other than the CDF, that these works will actually commence at an appropriate time?
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The assurance, Madam Speaker, will be that government has budgeted for this infrastructure development of phase one in Kanchivia district. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Next question, the Honorable Member for Chama North.
Question number 226, Madam Speaker.
The the Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama North, Honorable Mtaya Chialo, asked the Minister of Infrastructure and Urban Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development whether government has plans to rehabilitate Chinsali Chibuluma Road, which connects Chama and Chinsali districts. If so, when the plans will be implemented. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. Government does have plans to rehabilitate the Chinsali Chibuluma Road, which connects Chama and Chinsali districts. The second question, the rehabilitation works of the Chinsali Chibuluma Road will be undertaken by government once the project has been rescoped to fit within the available budget and retendered. The procurement process is expected to commence in the second quarter of 2023. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that response. Just for correction, it's not Chiburuma Road. It's Chiruvanama.
Oh, yes.
Chinsali Chiruvanama Road. Minister, thank you for that response. So, how soon do you think that you can do that assessment? Because that road is just about less than 20 kilometers from the Great North Road to Chiruvanama. Thank you.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that correction. It's Chiluvanama Road, yes. Chinsali Chiluvanama Road. Madam Speaker, thank you for the follow-up question from Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama North. So it is expected that the procurement process will be concluded during the course of 2023, and thereafter, Madam Speaker, works will commence. I submit.
The Honorable Member for Chinsali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, the fact that you were saying that Chinsali Chivuluma Road clearly indicates that you didn't know what you were talking about. So, what assurance are you giving the people of Chama and Chinsali that what you are telling us here is the truth? Because it could be that you were talking about Chivuluma Road and not Chinsali Chama Road. So what assurance are you telling us that the answers you are providing us are not as misleading as the Chivuluma Road you are talking about? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the beauty about this House is that we rely on verbatim. And as such, should the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chinsali choose to check what response this Honorable Minister, able Minister, is responding to, I would gladly request them to just go to Hansard. They are very well, I didn't say beautiful. They are very good people in that office who will be able to give you this particular document, which suggests that we are responding to Chinsali Chiluvanama Road. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kanfinsa.
Madam Speaker, our role is to provide oversight and represent our people. And I want to use this privilege, Madam Speaker, to ask a follow-up question.
Can we have order? The voices are becoming loud.
Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to sympathize with the acting minister who may not have all the information. I know he's just reading responses. Madam Speaker, the road...
Honorable Member, please just go straight to your question. Don't describe the minister.
Madam
We
Speaker,
are not allowed to debate ourselves. Just ask the question.
Madam Speaker, my follow-up question. The minister has indicated that there will be a bidding process for these road works, and based on that, resources will be allocated for this particular project. I want to find out from the minister, which funding model are you using? Are you going to use a loan to finance these road works, or are you going to use money which has been generated through taxpayers? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, at the risk of sounding pedantic, I'll explain exactly the issues pertaining to the Chinsali Chiluvanama Road. And to just give you supplementary information about the same road. The procurement process for this particular road began in 2021. However, the bids received for this particular road exceeded the amount which was budgeted for. So when we say budgeted for, simply means it's taxpayers' money. So we will use taxpayers' money, and that's the reason why we want to rescope this particular road so that we'll be able to take development to Chinsali-Chilubanama Road. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The last one, the honorable member for Kankoyo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister, the Acting Minister of Infrastructure, whether if it wasn't for the reckless borrowing, which has crippled this economy, were we going to be in a position where even struggling to raise more funds to add on the already submitted bids? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for that question, and a very good question for that matter. And I must make mention that, indeed, without excess borrowing, we would not have been struggling the way we are struggling right now. The people of Chinsali connecting to Chama would have been enjoying a nice road. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The honorable member for Shiwangandu, I had ruled that there are no points of order. Is it possible you can ask a question?
Madam Speaker, I was reluctantly following the honorable colleague, understandably, that is sitting in for the substantive minister. And we know, we have been there, so you don't have to say, huh. Madam Speaker, the whole reason why we stick to questions is to avoid irrelevance. And Standing Order 65 points to